Good morning, my dear students of language special class. We need to brush up grammar one more time. As the carpenters or the blacksmith or the goldsmith, they need to, always sharpen their tools. If you don't sharpen your tools, they get rusted. So we need to use them. Today we are going to really sharpen and brush up and clean our grammatical tools. I'm here with 50 such tools which I would like to today put before you, those tools for sharpening and cleaning. I'm reminded of the news which we watch these days on television. They call it Fatafat Sabachar. In 5 minutes they give you 100 news. Similarly, I also give you 50 such tools in given time. But only thing is, I'll not go very fast. I'll try to be slow for that, so that you can really understand, take note of it, and revise it. Those 50 tools are arranged in alphabetic order so that it becomes easier for you to remember, revise, and retain. So let's start sharpening our grammatical tools. The first tool is active. Now, when I say active, what do I mean? In an active clause or active sentence, the grammatical subject is the person or thing that performs the action given in the verb. I repeat. In an active clause or active sentence, the grammatical subject is the person or thing that performs the action given in the verb. Example, George wrote the book. George wrote the book. This is the active sentence or active clause. Now the next tool is adjective. A word that describes a noun. Example, an interesting book. Or a pronoun. Example, a big one. Gradable adjectives can be used to say that a person or thing has more or less of this quality. Example, she is very happy. Now it is gradable adjective, which I repeat can be used to say that a person or thing has more or less of this quality. Example, she is very happy. While ungradable adjectives can't. Example, it's impossible. Now this cannot be graded. We can't say very impossible. Impossible doesn't take very. So it cannot be graded. Classifying adjectives. Say that something is of a particular type. Example, atomic, initial. Emphasizing adjectives. Stress how strong we feel about something. Example, utter nonsense. So what did we see here in adjective? Gradable adjectives, ungradable adjectives, classifying adjectives, and emphasizing adjectives. Now we come to adjective phrase. A group of words where the main word is an adjective. Example, it's extremely important. It wasn't strong enough. Here, in these two examples, extremely important is an adjective phrase. Strong enough is also an adjective phrase. So we saw active, adjective phrase. Now we come to adverb. A word that describes or gives more information. When, how, where, etc. about a verb. So it describes a verb. Example, he ran quickly. Adjective. Example, an extremely expensive car. So expensive is being described with the word extremely. So, quickly, extremely are the adverbs. It also sometimes describes another adverb. Example, she is doing very well. Or phrase. Example, they live just across the road. Just across the road. So, across the road is being described by the word just. So, just is an adverb. Types of adverb include adverbs of manner, which we use or say how something is done. Example, slowly, violently. Connecting adverbs. Example, consequently, similarly. Time adverbs. Tomorrow, already. Place adverbs. Upstairs, outside. Comment adverbs. Apparently, personally. Which we use to make a comment on what we are saying. Viewpoint, that is known as viewpoint adverbs. Example, financially, politically. Which we use to make clear from what point of view we are speaking. Next is adverbs of indefinite frequency. Example, always, never. Indefinite frequency. Always, never. Degree adverb. Completely, quite. Which give information about the extent of degree of something. It is completely done. It has not been completely done. It is quite possible. Now, these are the examples of degree adverb. Now, focus adverb. Just, even, which we use to focus on a particular word or phrase. Just, even. So, adverb you need to revise properly because it has many types. Adverbs of manner, connecting adverbs, place adverbs, comment adverbs, viewpoint adverbs, adverbs of indefinite frequency, degree adverbs, focus adverbs, etc. After this, we move to adverbial clause. A type of subordinate clause that says when, how, where, etc. I repeat, a type of subordinate clause that says when, how, where, etc. Something happens. Example, before I went to school this morning, I did my homework. So, before I went to school this morning is the adverbial clause. I did my homework is the main clause, and the adverbial clause which describes is before I went to school this morning. I did my homework. Now, adverbial phrase. A group of words that says when, how, where, etc. A group of words that says when, how, where, etc. Something happens. Example, with a great deal of noise. About a week ago. With a great deal of noise, about a week ago are the adverbial phrases. Now we come to affirmative sentence. Affirmative sentence means a statement that is not a question, that is positive, not negative. A statement that is positive, not negative. I go to school. This is an affirmative sentence. After that is agent, the person or thing that performs the action described in a verb. Usually it is the subject in an active clause and comes after by in a passive clause. We will discuss passive clause later. So what did we see? The agent means the person or thing that performs the action described in a verb. Usually it is the subject in an active clause. Now the auxiliary verbs. The verbs be, have and do, when they are used with a main verb to perform questions, negatives, tenses, passive forms, etc. Modal verbs are also auxiliary verbs. So you should keep in mind the modal verbs also come under the category of auxiliary verbs. Now the clause. A group of words that contain a verb. A clause may be a complete sentence or a part of a sentence. A main clause can exist as a separate sentence, while a subordinate clause cannot. Example, if I see Tony at work subordinate clause. I will invite him over this evening, main clause. Let me repeat the example one more time. If I see Tony at work, this is the subordinate clause. I will invite him over this evening is the main clause. Types of clause include since clause. Example, I haven't seen him since we left school. This is since clause. Now the next is that clause. Example, she said that she was thirsty. WH clause. Example, I asked Sandra where she was going. This is known as WH clause. It clause. It's not surprising that you are feeling cold. What clause? Example, what I want to do is buy a better computer. If clause. If you leave now, you will be home by 10 a.m. Weather clause. Example, you have to take the exam whether you want to or not. ING clause. Feeling hungry, I went into the kitchen. Past participle, that is ed clause. Built during the 1950s, the building is now in need of repair. Built during the 1950s, the building is now in need of repair. Being past participle clause. Being unemployed, Tom had lot of time on his hands. Having past participle. Having past participle clause. Example, having seen the doctor, I went straight home. So these are the examples of clause. I would just again repeat the kinds of clauses. Subordinate clause, since clause, that clause, WH clause, what clause, it clause, if clause, whether clause, ing clause, past participle clause, being past participle clause, having past participle clause. Now these were the examples of the clause. Now we move to complement. A word or phrase that follows a linking verb and describes the subject is known as complement. I repeat, a word or phrase that follows a linking verb and describes the subject. Example, Leela is a lawyer. Subject and also or object. I found the food unedible. I will repeat because complement you need to understand and revise properly. Complement, first you should keep in mind complement, COMPLIMENT, complement has different meaning. Here we are discussing the complement. The spelling is COMPLEMENT. A word or phrase that follows a linking verb and describes the subject. The example is Leela is a lawyer, or object, I found the food inedible. So inedible and lawyer and inedible, those are complements. Completion. A completion is an adverbial or prepositional phrase which completes the meaning of a verb. I repeat the definition of completion. A completion is an adverbial or prepositional phrase that completes the meaning of a verb. Some verbs need a completion. Example, the disease originated in Britain. The disease originated would be incomplete. If we just say the disease originated in Britain, means in Britain completes the sense, the meaning. It's very relevant here to quote about the corona disease. The disease originated in China. If we just say corona originated, means it is not complete unless we say in China. Now The next is compound. A compound noun consists of two or more words together used as a noun. Example, a language school. A compound adjective consists of two or more words together used as an adjective. They are well behaved. Now, language school is a noun compound and well behaved is an adjective compound. Conditional. A conditional clause usually starts with if, but other patterns are. It starts with if, but other patterns are possible. Example, had it not rained, England would have won. A conditional sentence is one containing a conditional clause. Had it not rained is the condition, England would have won is the main clause. So a conditional means a condition is imposed. Had it not rained, England would have won. A conditional sentence is one containing a conditional clause. Now we move to conjunction. A word such as and, but, if, while, after, because, which connects words, phrases, or clauses in a sentence. After conjunction, countable. A countable noun can be both singular and plural. Example, cup, cups. An uncountable noun doesn't have a plural form. Example, electricity, but not electricities. We already had a class on countable and uncountable nouns, and we have already done exercises on countable and uncountable nouns. So, you remember that countable is used in singular and plural, and uncountable doesn't have a plural form. Now we come to determiner. A word that goes in front of a noun to identify what the noun refers to. I repeat, a word that goes in front of a noun to identify what the noun refers to. Example, this, some, the, a, an, each, all, my. All these words, all these determiners are used before the noun to let us know what it refers to. Now we will see direct speech. Speech that is written using the exact words of the speaker without any changes is known as direct speech. Dynamic verb, a verb that describes an action. Example, walk, throw. Now, finite verb. So we saw dynamic verb, now finite verb, a verb that has a tense. Example, she waited, she is waiting for you. Non-finite verb forms are infinitives. Example, he came to see me. And participle forms, example, shouting loudly, I was able to make myself heard. Born in Germany, he now lives in France. I will love to repeat finite verb one more time so that it registers properly. A verb that has a tense. Example, she waited. She is waiting for you. Non-finite verb forms are infinitives. Example, he came to see me. Now, to see is the infinitive. And participle form, example, shouting loudly. I was able to make myself heard. Now, shouting loudly is the, again, participle form. Born in Germany, he now lives in France. Now, born again is the finite form of the verb. Imperative. An imperative clause uses the bare infinitive form of a verb for such things as giving orders and making suggestions. I will first repeat the definition again. An imperative clause uses the bare infinitive form of a verb for such things as giving orders and making suggestions. Example, go to bed. Go to bed is the example of imperative clause. Now, infinitive, the form of a verb that usually goes after to. The form can be either the to infinitive, example to sing, to eat, or the bare infinitive, sing, eat. Now, both to infinitive and bare infinitive. To infinitive is to sing, to eat, and bare infinitive is bare means it doesn't take any word before it, preposition or any other word, so it is known as bare infinitive. Sing, eat. Intransitive verb, a verb that doesn't take an object. She smiled. She smiled is the example of intransitive verb. It doesn't take an object. Inversion, changing the usual word order so that the verb comes before the subject. Inversion means changing the usual word order so that the verb comes before the subject. Up went the balloon. Now, such inversions usually are used for focusing also. Up went the balloon. Now, linking verb. Linking verb is a verb, example, be, become, appear, etc., that connects a subject with its complement. Linking verb is a verb that connects a subject with its complement. Be, become, appear. Now, modal verbs. Modal verbs, a group of verbs, the examples are can, could, dare, may, might, must, need, ought to, shall, should, will, would, used to, that give information about such things as possibility, necessity, and obligation. I repeat modal verbs again. A group of verbs can, could, dare, may, might, must, need, ought to, shall, should, will, would, used to. So we will close here with these 26 tools. I would like to repeat all the 26 tools again so that you can revise and remember. Active, adjective, adjective phrase, adverb, adverbial clause, adverbial phrase, affirmative sentence, agent, auxiliary verb, clause, complement, completion, compound, conditional, conjunction, countable, determiner, direct speech, dynamic verb, finite verb, imperative, infinitive, intransitive verb, inversion, linking verb, and modal verbs. Now, your task would be to revise these definitions, these grammatical tools, and add more examples to these tools. Make sentences with these words and enrich your vocabulary and try to have some more command over the grammar. Thank you very much. The second part of the language class, where the other tools will be discussed, will be in tomorrow's class. Thank you very much. All the best and good luck.